Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of Speaking Plain English. I am your host, Roberta Johnson, and I know that we're usually here on the last Saturday, but we're doing things a little different today. All right, y'all, excuse me. I got a little sign in my throat. So today's episode is going to be something that is it's heavy. It's heavy, but it's necessary to talk about because there are those who are who have dealt with it, who are dealing with it, and we're going to talk about suicide today. And we're going to talk about it on 3 points of view, which are the clinical standpoint from a clinician. We are going to talk about it from the standpoint of an attempter, as well as the point of view from those who have been left to grieve. I have 3 really, really wonderful guests today. Y'all are gonna have to bear with me because this is like I said, this is heavy for me. And I'm gonna bring in my guests. We have Ebony Hines, who is going to be our clinician. We're gonna bring in Marlene Barber, who I will call the attempter, and Tristan, aka Triz Money. And I'll tell y'all in a minute why we call him Triz Money, who is going to be one with me that is a survivor. I guess you could say a survivor or one who was left. Hi, everybody.
How y'all doing?
So I have your bios up. I can't read them for whatever reason. So what I want to do is I want you guys to take a minute to introduce yourselves. Starting with we're gonna go with Ebony first, then Tristan, then Marlene. So Ebony, take a minute to introduce yourself.
I knew you was gonna do that. Good morning / afternoon. I know we're all in different time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I am Ebony Hines. I will be providing the clinical side of suicide today. I am a native Memphian. I've been a therapist now about 6 years. And it is a joy of mine. I also feel a purpose of mine to help people become their best possible selves through therapy. So I'm happy to be here today, and I hope that today will be healing and productive.
Yes, thank you so much, Ebony, for being here. Listen, y'all, this one is I'm pointing out to her. She's a bubble of light, a bubble of just bubbliness. I promise you. So, but she's so wise, and she brings so much knowledge into this topic. So I'm really, really glad to have you on. Thank you so much, Ebony. Tristan, your turn.
How y'all doing? Tristan, aka Triz Money, music producer. I'm terrible about talking about myself. But a friend of one of the person we'll be talking about today. So hopefully this helps somebody else. Like I said, it's gonna be heavy, but hopefully it'll help somebody today.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Tristan. He gave you a little bit.
I'm terrible.
Yes, Tristan is again, like he mentioned. I have him here because he is a mutual friend of who we're not necessarily talking about. We're not going to say this is not going to necessarily all be about Chaz, but he was one that, as well as Ebony, that experienced the same type of experience that I did with the same individual. So I have him here to give his side of surviving afterwards. And he's a dope producer, y'all. So anybody who needs some beats or whatever, y'all know when it comes to good food, good music, I will never see y'all wrong. So anybody who needs some beats, hit him up. All right. And now we're going to speak to Marlene. I want you to introduce yourself.
Hi. So I'm Marlene. I met Roberta in the Army, actually. We were in the military together. I don't know. I have a ministry. The Lord's blessed me with a ministry to be able to really impact today's generation that is struggling with childhood trauma, abuse. I myself am a survivor of every type of childhood abuse you could ever imagine, and had children and didn't know what I was doing, and ended up having my children taken from me, and my mom manipulate the court system, steal my kids from me. And I mean, it just left me down a really dark kind of road that ended with me being with one of the major drug suppliers in LA County. And I was with him for 4.5 years. And it was so bad that, it was just extremely abusive. And eventually I put a double barrel sawed-off shotgun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger. So that's what this facelift is all about. Is I wasn't born like this. This is the result of the trauma from a double barrel sawed-off shotgun in my mouth. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Marlene, because I actually was going to start with you. So now everybody has pretty much of a little bit of a an idea about, you know, why I have you here, obviously. And I still want to start with you. So being that you've already began with, you know, a good portion of your story, I want to know from your standpoint, like, what was it like? How long, let me ask you this, did it not take for you, but how long had you actually contemplated the idea of, you know, of suicide?
Yeah. So, because of my childhood trauma, my childhood abuse, because it was so extreme, I actually had suicidal ideations as young as in the 5th grade. But I remember self-harm began in junior high. So yeah, I definitely began self-harm and drug use in junior high. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I want those who are, and we have a comment here from my cousin Carlene. She said, "Oh, wow, God kept you here. God bless you. God bless you all." Thank you, Carlene, so much for that.
I like your name, by the way. I like your name. This one letter different, but love it. Okay.
Yes, I didn't even think about that. It's just a C, Arlene with an M and Arlene with a C.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that. So I'm still going to go with you with this, as far as your, like, what were the things that you said self-harm? So like what exactly, if you don't mind going into in depth with exactly like your examples of what did you find yourself doing?
Yeah. So at that young age, I used whatever I had readily available. I didn't back then when I was doing this wasn't something common that you had kind of kids, you know, cutting. It wasn't anything like that. It was a legit hatred for myself. So I would get my nails and I would dig them into my face and I would rip my face apart, or I would rip my arms apart till like they were like a bloody mess, like completely legit, just bloody and puffy and pussy, and it was just a mess. Or I would get like a pencil or like a letter opener, anything sharp, and I would just jab it into my legs. Like I legit hated myself. Hated everything about myself. So I would literally just rage on myself.
Wow. Yeah. And in those moments, what did you feel like that was doing for you?
It gave me
was
control.
It relief, or was it like?
No, it gave me control. It was the one thing that I had control over. I couldn't control the pain that people were inflicting on me, but I can control my own pain. And it helped me to not live in my head and live with the torment of all the different memories from all the different types of trauma. It literally helped me kind of to release, and then I was able to start building back again to that point where I couldn't take it anymore, and then I'd rage on myself, and then I'd be able to start that process again.
Wow. Okay, so I want to talk to Ebony real quick. So I want to know, like, of hearing what she said so far, how often do you hear stories like that, and what types of things should those who are I guess observing? Let me ask you this, Marlene, before we get to Ebony. Did you do these things? Like, did people know about it? I'll ask you that. Or did you do it in privacy?
So I did it in privacy, and then once my aunt, I confided in her, because I was just, at that point, I was to the point where I wanted to die. So I was contemplating jumping in front of cars and stuff like that. So, and that was junior high. I told my godmother, and she told my mom, and my mom kind of made it like she was the victim, and then she started threatening to like harm herself. So I kind of just stopped talking to people about it.
So this had been something that was on your mind for years, because your attempt was at what age?
So this last one was in 2005. So I believe it was right around the time you lost your significant other.
Wow. 2005. Because his was 2008.
Okay.
So Ebony, what I want you to give a little bit of light on is on the clinical side. All of those things that she mentioned so far, and knowing what it is that that Marlene mentioned, what does that sound like to you?
Honestly, for anybody dealing with suicidal ideation, that's the norm. So my preference of clients would be like adolescents, and that's who I heard the most from about the suicide attempts or having suicidal thoughts. And I would say, like, she's right about the self-harm. Now, of course, her self-harm is different from what I've heard. Normally it is cutting. Sometimes people scratch or they pinch, things like that, but the cutting is the most common. And self-harm, it actually is the one thing that they have control over. I've heard that several times. That's the one, like, normally if children or just people in general, if they start self-harming, it's because it's the area of their life right now that they lack control in, and that's the only thing that they do have control over. So but I always tell people that there's danger in that, because while yes, you do have control over the part, but you never know when it's going to go too far, and that's how a lot of unplanned suicides have happened. Like it was too far. Like you were putting your wrist and you hit a vein, you couldn't get help in time, like you bleed out too fast, like anything could happen in the midst of self-harm in the form of cutting. But she has some different methods, but that's pretty much the norm when people are dealing with this area that they lack control in. Like it sucks, but like it's kind of like one of those, I need to do what I need to do until I can get to the next,
Yeah.
So
Kind of like a high, like in a nutshell.
I'm sorry, it just sustains you. Yeah.
For the moment. Like and that's how other things such as like different other kinds of like drug abuse and alcohol abuse and all, it's pretty much around the same type of thing. From what I'm gathering. So let me ask you this, Ebony. So where do you think, because I know that kids do certain things, and this is something that I want the parents to actually to take a look at, especially now since we've got so many different things that have been happening. Like kids are different these days. Oh my goodness. Kids are different, and they're wiser. They're smarter. I'll put it like that. They're not necessarily wiser, but they're smarter, and they're open to more things. So there may be small little things that we can deem as, oh, that's just a kid being a kid. But what would you say, Ebony, would be something that parents can actually look out for, and not just in parents, but in adults as well? Like,
as far as if they think their child is self-harming or they have suspicions,
right?
Self-harming. That's a tricky one, because a lot of it's gonna come with invading privacy. Because I've had adolescents in my office, and I know that they've dealt with suicidal thoughts, or I know that they've been self-harming or things like that they're willing to share with me. And parents, soon as they get a whiff that it may have been, you got some parents, they will have kids do strip searches. They will look at marks, because kids do get creative when self-harming goes on. Like I remember one of my kids, like you would never catch her in shorts because she had marked her thighs up. And like that, like, so when summertime come around, it's a little odd. You don't want to go swimming. You don't want to put on a bathing suit, like, because your thighs are covered in scratches. Or be mindful of like lots of bracelets, because this is a common spot to mark up too. So like if they because I mean the charm bracelets are like getting out of hand now. Like, so their wrist might be covered. with bracelet. So you need to be mindful of that because it could be covered in scratches either way. So that's one way that you can cover it. Or just like long sleeves in general when it's weird. Because like I be looking at these kids with these hoodies on when they feel like Satan's, condo outside. Like something's wrong.
Real.
The hoodie, like, wait a minute. Like, why are your sleeves so long? Like, it's summer. Like, what are we doing? So, and then long sleeves just in general. Like, if you never see a person, like you don't never see their arms, like, unless they're self-conscious, the opposite could be that they're dealing with self-harm and they have marks that they don't want to share.
So what about something like picking at the skin of the nails and things like that?
Sometimes that can just be them dealing with anxiety about something. And like not necessarily, I don't never kind of look at picking, like when it's fingers, I don't look at that as a form of self-harm. However, it's something they're in control of. So if they're anxious about something, that may be their coping strategy. I know that sounds really odd, but we all got strange things we used to cope with. So that's
You're right. So I have a comment here from Carlene. She says, honey, she's me being a mom of 7 and they are all different. I look at their behavior. If anything has changed, I note it and pray how to approach it. Absolutely. And she also said,
Carlene.
Yes, I'm telling you. That's what you have to do as a parent. You want to make sure that and it's a lot. It can definitely be a lot. It can be exhausting, but it's necessary.
Because, and bless your heart, 7 kids. Oh my goodness!
I was like, wow.
How can you deal with all the emotions and all of her? I can't. No.
Yup. Her kids range from 30 to Alana is. So Liberty's 10. Alana is 9, I believe.
No.
Yeah.
Liberty is 10?
Liberty just turned 10. Can you believe it? She just turned 10 last month. Yes. And she also says that her daughter did that the other day. I think it's because of the long sleeves she's talking about. And that's because she didn't do her laundry.
It's like, I don't know how it is back east, but over here in LA, Orange County, these teens are like wearing sweaters in the middle of the summer. I'm like, take that off.
Shorts.
Girl, go inside and change. Like, that is stinky. Like, no.
I don't understand it. I never understood it for the life of me. But you know what? That's something to think about. And that's something to look out for, especially because it's common in kids now. So that's the easy way to hide. So that's good. I'm glad that you mentioned that because
cutting is becoming more common in kids also, because you have to understand, like, when I grew up, the level of trauma I endured was not normal. Now we have an entire generation of parents that are addicted to their phones, of like parents that are addicted to prescription drugs or regular drugs, parents that don't know how to cope, so they go on psych meds and then it numbs their emotions. Like, and then the kids are left to their own devices and are stuck with their little, addiction trap right here. And it's
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the cycle that we're heading now. So Ebony, I'm going to ask you this question, and Tristan, matter of fact, in a minute, I'm going to get to you, Tristan. But what I want Ebony to answer for now is like, what do you find like maybe the top contributing factors to those who may be contemplating suicide?
You know something? Home life is a big one. Just thinking of Marlene's story. Oh my gosh. Like, home life is a big part of it. I would say interpersonal relationships, like in school, because how many kids get bullied, end up going home and saying, you know what, I'm done with life because of stuff that they've experienced in school.
That was me also.
You got bullying too?
I was horribly bullied from 5th grade until 8th grade. My older brother actually started it, who molested me also. So yeah, like 100%. Yes. I had no peace. I didn't have peace at home. I didn't have peace at school. I had no peace. So yes, there's a million kids out there like me that, again, they have no social because this is here. I go into high schools and I ask the kids. I can go into a high school in like Gardena or Compton or even in Arcadia, like super fancy areas. And I ask all the kids the same thing. Like, how many of you guys struggle with loneliness?
Yeah.
They all raise their hand because they have millions of people at the tip of their fingers, but yet nobody knows them. And they have no voice because if they voice who they really are, they're not going to get the likes and they're not going to get the follows and they're not going to get the clicks. So they try to form themselves into who they think people want to be, and it leaves them lonely. And then they have trauma going on at home or things going on that they're dealing with.
That's adding fuel to the fire. So if I had to say like contributors, like top things, mental illness for sure. An ACE, adverse child, what is the word I'm looking for? Adverse childhood experience, so like trauma of any kind. Sometimes having access to lethal. How many times have I heard of a 4-year-old, 6-year-old dying because they got curious? They had access to a gun, wanted to play with it, it looks like a toy, and then they're gone. And then a lot of parents are left to deal with that burden. And I can't even wrap my head around that one. As an adult, somebody ending their life is a little different. But when it wasn't supposed to happen, it was curiosity. That should never happen. So having access to lethal means, substance abuse, also family history of suicide. That's another one.
Oh,
Talk about.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So that can be genetic.
Not genetic, but when you know that a loved one has tried this and they're gone because of it, again, curiosity.
How about that?
Yeah,
I never thought about that.
And you can also
it's so easy for a seed to be planted. You just never know.
And that's what I really dislike about like all these kind of talking and glamorizing about kids that are like committing suicide. It's because once the seed is planted, the enemy goes in there and just continues to run with it. And again, with the generational curse comes along that generational cycle, and the enemy, he's using the same tactics and lies that he's used his entire life.
He's waiting and watching
on our parents, on our grandparents. Like this is the same. It's the same.
I agree.
I'm sorry, but to be told constantly in my mind that I'm a victim made me feel like I would never survive. Like I could never get out. Like I was trapped and I couldn't escape. So the only way I could escape was this way. That's how I lived my life from childhood. Is die and believing that the only way that I could escape the pain was to die.
Yeah, like now you make a valid point. I've always heard, or I had a different way of seeing suicide, and it's a solvable problem to an unsolvable issue.
Yes.
And I said, wow. That's
when I work with teens and young women, what I do is I bring them out of their city, out of their normal environment, and I take them to the most craziest places that will cost nothing. And they're just so blown away and amazed because in their mind, they're trapped there and they can't get out because this is a generational cycle especially in the neighborhood. I grew up in East LA, like in Hawaii Gardens, a little 1 area where like 1 mile area where we're constantly shooting each other up. So like this is a generational, like I have my family, my grandparents, everybody is living in the neighborhood. So to get out from there is even more insurmountable. And it's just another layer of I can't escape except for this way.
Yeah. Wow. So Tristan, I want so we have a little bit of the clinical side, and we have a little bit of the side of those who may be contemplating. So one thing that I don't think that we talk enough about, or some that may not even realize, is the effects out of the people who you leave behind. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because I wanted it to tackle it from all angles, because I wanted everybody to be able to, to get, I don't want anybody to be left out. I don't want any aspect to be left out. So like I mentioned before, Tristan and I share a mutual loved one who, how do I put it without saying it, who decided to leave. And 14 years ago today, actually, is when we found out. And it's been tough on both of, like, it's been to the point. Matter of fact, the crazy thing about it is Chaz actually introduced me to you, I want to say the year before. Is that right?
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, at the gas station. So, I mean, so every year, we end up checking in with each other and everything. So, first of all, I want to thank you for that, because it's needed, it's necessary. But what I want you to do, if it's okay, is to kind of give your input on what you saw. And I'm going to give a little bit of background. For those who may or may not have known Chaz, or those who do know him, y'all are going to be like, yep, absolutely. He was somebody who was, he had an amazing personality, gave the best hugs in the world. He was the positive one. People went to him for advice. People went to him, like, we would put things like plans. And he was a Christian, and he loved God with everything. This dude straight up, like, he and I, what we had in common is what we used to do is we used to want to put events together and outings together all the time, mainly for the youth and young adults, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to show people that salvation is not boring, that you can actually live for Christ and still live. You know what I mean? Instead of people, because there was a stereotype with, if you're a Christian, you are always bound to all of these rules, and that you can't live and it's boring and there's no life for you. We wanted to combat that. So that's what we did. We got together and we had outings and we had a good time. And he would minister to people no matter where you were. He would always talk about God, always talking about Jesus. I remember we went to Burger King once. He invited somebody to church from the drive-thru. You know what I mean? So and he was such a light to people. He was such a light to people. And then to see a very drastic change in his character, it's like, wait a minute, it's like, what in the world is happening here? But it's kind of like unbelievable in a way. And to find out that he left the way that he did was like, hold on, this doesn't even make any sense. This is not even, a characteristic of his. So I want you, Tristan, to be able to take pretty much go over what your experience was, I guess, right before, because from what I understand, he came to see you the day before.
Yeah, I seen him the day before. It's funny you said something about the church thing, because about 6 months before the last time I seen him, that was our conversation. Like, he was always trying to get me to go to church. And for some reason, I was either busy or out of town or something. And I remember we was playing basketball, and he was like, man, you should come to church with me Sunday. And I'm like, man, I got a studio session, da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, I know what you're doing. Don't worry about it, though. I'm gonna get you to come to church. He's like, I'm gonna get you the word one day. And I'm like, I ain't got a relationship with God. Like, what you mean? He's like, don't worry about it. I was like, all right, man. It's funny. It kind of ties into after the fact too, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the last day I seen him, he ended up coming to my house, and I hadn't seen him about 6 months. So he ended up coming to my house. My brother answered the door. He was like, yo, you got company. First thing, I come to the door, and the first thing I noticed, he usually had like a bald fade, but he was completely bald. So I'm like, yo, what's this? Like, I'm laughing, like, yo, what's up with this? And if you ever, like I said, bubbly personality, if you know him well, when he does something like where he feel like he got you, he does this weird. He does a funny laugh, and the only way I can describe it is
that was it right there.
that's the
Elmo.
perfect. If you ever, and I'm gonna show my age right now. If you've ever watched this, it's a show that used to come on Cartoon Network called Wacky Racers, and it was this dog named Muttley. He laughed just like him. It was like,
oh yes, yes.
If you felt like he laughed, like, it was the funniest laugh. So he laughed like that. I was like, yo, what's up with this? The one thing I noticed though, and I told people this later on, and I don't know what it means, but he had like a glow to him. Almost like an aura was around him, but it was like a goldish orange. I don't know what that means. Maybe somebody can tell me. But I was like, maybe it's just, new look, new glow kind of thing. I don't know. Like I said, so the conversation, like, it was normal, like, non-suspecting whole conversation. He was telling me about, he wanted to open up he was a masseuse, so he wanted to open up like his own. I was like, of course, I'm supporting it. I'm behind it.
Yeah.
So we were, normal conversation. By the end of the conversation, he gets ready to go. He's like, man, I'm gonna go. Da 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 da. The only thing that alarmed me was like, he was like, yo, he's like, real quick before I go, do you know anybody that where I can find a gun? And I'm like, that's not him at all. So it was like, hold up, bro. Like, it's like I knew, but I'm like, nah, like I don't. You all right? And he was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, bro, come on, like, you all right? And I probably asked him about 10 times. I was like, bro, like, this me. You can talk to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what's going on? He's like, bro, like, I'm good. Like, and the last time I asked him, he was like, man, just I just want to, protect my family. I'm like, okay. Didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, I'm telling them the legal way, and you might want to go to classes and this, and I'm giving them all the the legal stuff. Like, I don't want you to go get nothing off the street or could harm you in the end.
Yeah.
But it always stuck in my mind, like, that's not you to ask that. Like, I've never heard you even, like, you're not the violent type. So I'm like, nah, like, whatever. So he was like, all right, we kind of shook hands or whatever. And he was like, oh, real quick, before I leave, runs to the car real quick, and he grabs these 3 CDs. And he was like, I need you to hold on to these for me. I'm like, all right. Like, he's like, I'm gonna tell you what to do with them later. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, all right.
God.
Random. Like, it's not thinking nothing of it. So he calls me about an hour later. And he tells me on every CD, he was like, on specific CDs, he wanted me to write something on it, but they were Bible scripture. They were like Bible headings. Again, I have no idea what none of them mean. I'm just like, all right, just let me do it. He was like, I was like, so what you want me to do with it? He's like, just hold on to it for me. All right, I'm gonna hit you back later. I'm like, cool. Wake up the next day, that's when I found out the news.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was literally the day before.
Like, literally, like, probably.
The same day that he gave you letters, before. Right? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why Roberta wanted you on last night, because we talked about another gift, but
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So, like I said, I had no idea. Like I said, had no idea. I was in denial. Like, even after I kind of, and I think I remember talking to his parents, and that's how I kind of confirmed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still like, nah, like complete denial. Like, nah, like, nah, just no. So I remember it was like a week later, and everybody's calling me at this point because they know how close me and him were. So they're calling me, checking on me. I remember a bunch of friends came to our house. Roberta, were you there?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you about to find out something you didn't know. So I remember everybody like that. We just all kind of like, talking about the good times with him and stuff. And somebody saw the CDs, and they was like, "Yo, what are these?" I was like, But he actually left these with me the day before. They was like, "Did you look at them?" And I was like, "Nah." Like, I was like, he didn't say. He never said what to do with them. He said just hold on to it for him. So we ended up looking at them, and they were pictures. And the pictures were like normal. They were church pictures. Like he's at church with friends, and I'm like, nothing stands out, but one of my friends and one of his close friends, too, Gerald. Shout out Gerald. He was the one that was like, he said, "Yo, what was one of the Bible scriptures again?" And I showed it to him, and he kind of knew what he meant. And that's when it kind of, and then come to find out, that was his suicide letter.
So was the scripture? I remember there was a few different ones. There's one. Was one of them like I must decrease so that he might increase, something like that? Was that one of them?
I don't remember what they were. I don't remember what I did with the CDs, but I was like, I couldn't look at it. So I kind of, my way of kind of not dealing with it, I kind of like pushed it to the side, but I don't remember, but I just remember it kind of they all tied in where it kind of told. I just remember it kind of like once everybody kind of started describing like what the scriptures meant, it played back the things he had told me when we were kids that happened to him. Yeah. And it was like basically what happened to him, why he did what he did, and what was going to happen after. And scary enough, literally everything played out. So I was like,
that was strategic. Like they had to been laid out for a minute.
And I kind of even thought about it later. Like I was like, he said he was gonna get me into the word one way or another. And I'm like, I had to literally read the Bible to figure out.
Oh my goodness.
I had a feeling that's what you was finna tell us. Either that, or I thought before he left that day, I thought you was finna say, like, before I knew it, he led me to Christ. Like, I thought that's what you was about to say.
I mean, like I said, it kind of made me have to dig into the Bible more. Like, okay, like,
yeah.
Okay, wow. So it's like, it's almost like you're seeing life before it happens. So it's like, yeah. I was like, whoa, okay. Like, that was different. Like I said, I've never, like, it kind of threw me off. And I think this was like days before the funeral. So it was like, trying to process that, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
I remember you telling that story, and I remember we created a page, or I didn't, somebody else did. I don't remember who it was, but somebody created a page, and as a part of that page, I remember writing down something that along those lines, and I'm trying to go back in my mind and remember, but I remember for some reason thinking he did this as an attempt to bring people to Christ. And I think that was the thought, you know, because I'm like, there's nothing else that made sense to me out of it. I'm like, there's nothing else that made any sense at all. That's the only thing I could come up with, that, because I was like, how in the world? And like you said, it was like, no, ain't no way.
I was in complete denial. And like I said, even with the wrestling with the, like, this was the way you, like, I'm like, if this was the way, this was, like, you could have did this another way. Like, I was like I said, I kind of started feeling like, it's because I didn't go to church. Like, I'm like, man, if I'd have known you was going through this, I would have I would have canceled something. But it's like, kind of, that's something I wrestled with for years, like, the guilt of, like, I know, like, one thing, like I said, I remember asking him constantly, like, are you okay? And I remember how many times I asked 10 times. I always wrestle with that. If I would have asked 11, what would have happened?
Like, wow.
And that goes into what I was about to ask next. Like, after the fact and after, years later, even me personally, like, I'm going to put it like this. Once coming for a long time, me even thinking about it, something would have, I feel like my brain would glitch. I honestly did. Because I'm a visual person. So if somebody is going like for the longest, I was trying to picture him actually doing it. And I'm like, every time I would try, I'm like, my brain would just go into this thing where I just couldn't.
I'll tell you even something deeper with that. Where it happened, and if y'all don't know, like he
told us last night.
There's a
right behind the Ramesses statue.
By the pyramid. Every time I drove down there, it's like it would be like this heavy presence, and I'm like, nah, I can't be down here. Like I gotta leave whatever I'm doing. Like I can't be down here. I would cancel like sessions I would have down that way. Just kind of like I can't be anywhere
near there.
Like I'm like, that's no. Like I don't care how much money it is. No, I can't do it. And I think they moved it.
It's not there anymore.
It's not.
I don't think, from what I understand, it's gone. Right? Isn't that statue gone? Because it was a Ramesses statue.
Yeah, it's gone from the pyramid, but they moved it to the University of Memphis.
Did they?
And that's where his sister tied in. Because
right.
I remember.
Wow.
Like they had to they couldn't they pretty much understood it, but she had to tell teachers nah, I can't come to class. And they was like, why? And then when she explained it to them, they was like, oh, we didn't. I don't know if they moved it from the University of Memphis. I want to say they did because of that, and if they did, I'm glad because I know how that will make her feel. But I'm not sure either. But I remember the University of Memphis and that happening. She was like, I'm not going to class. And I'm like, I understood it. I totally understood it. Because like I said, that's a sore spot. And I think it was right in front of her class. So it was every day you got to see this.
Right. So
can I jump in real fast, Roberta?
Go ahead.
You said that you were trying to picture it. The reason how come I would suggest that your brain couldn't put it together was because Deuteronomy 29:29 says the hidden things belong to the Lord, but the revealed things belong to us so that we could follow God and obey his statutes all the days of our lives. Sometimes God withholds information because it's too much for us to comprehend.
Yeah.
And that's his way of protecting us and insulating us. Because I think knowing more could probably drive us crazy,
It could be.
And I think
they moved.
So.
I just pulled up a picture of the statue, so I didn't realize that I had seen it before. So if I'm looking at this right, this is right near the theater building, arts and everything. She was
these art.
Wow. I never saw it when it was downtown. So
if I'm not mistaken, and I pray to God it's not, I remember it was on it. If you looked in the back of it, it was carved in there. CJE was here.
Yes, there was.
18.
Yes, there was.
And there was still some of his blood still on there.
Yes, there was.
That I don't know if that's still there today, but I remember when I went down there and seen it for myself.
I saw that. I went, and the thing is, I'm trying to remember if it was there because the day that I found out, I went down there.
I think I went the next day. Just because I didn't.
When I found out was the next morning or afternoon.
Yeah, it was
from what I get, it happened. He actually did it on the 17th.
Yep.
It was the 17th. We found out on the 18th.
Yep.
And he had no ID on him, so he wasn't able to be identified because he lost his ID a while before. I remember him losing his ID some time before. I don't remember seeing that. Then I didn't look for it or anything. I hadn't noticed it, but I do remember I went down there another time because I just felt like I needed to be close to him. So I went down there, and you was still able to see the blood stains, and I did remember seeing that. I do remember seeing that carving. I don't know if it was there before, but I do remember seeing it. After.
I think I went down there on the 19th. It was there. So I was like, that kind of let me know. I was like, okay, this was intentional. This wasn't like something botched or something went wrong. Like this was planned. Like,
well, I think even him like telling you about like future plans to open a massage kind of business may have been his way to kind of conceal his true purpose for going to ask you how to purchase a gun.
I've heard people say that a lot. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I think one of my friends put it, Tori, she was like, he knew that if he told you the truth, you were gonna try to save him.
Exactly.
He knew.
Same with me.
He's like, she was like, he would always tell me, he was like, you were kind of his protector, so he knew you would try to stop it. So anything to throw you off, and I was like, right.
So Ebony, would that be common? Is that common?
Be like strategic in the plan
for talking, because again, like he was talking to Tristan about making, like, talking to people in their last words or whatever, or having, telling them about things that they're planning to do in the future. Because with the last encounter, matter of fact, I don't know how many hours it was before he saw you, I spoke to him. We were broken up, and then we actually got back together that day. We got back together that day, and we were talking marriage. And then I had to go to work. So we departed. And then, later on, I guess that's when he came to you. So all of those things, like talking about future plans, starting, getting married, starting opening up a massage parlor, anything that makes it seem like you still plan to be here. Is that common for a person to say things like that or do something like that to keep a person from?
Normally it's the opposite. Like it's more so in the life preparations. So when y'all were when you told me about the gift that he gave to you to hold on to, and then Tristan talked about the one that he was given technically, which you're not realizing what it is at the time. So right. In my eyes, that's the kind of in the life preparation. This is for you when I'm not here anymore. So like I don't think I've ever heard of anybody like making future plans of what's to come when they know, like, I'm planning to leave here next week. So no, that was a little different, I have to say.
That's why I was thinking for the longest part, and I'm going to be really, really honest. I was thinking he ain't do it. He ain't do it. There ain't no way in the world he ain't do it. For the longest time, I had that thought, and I'm like, this was not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can I offer a suggestion that, and again, I can't know the mind of somebody else. Maybe what you both were experiencing was him trying to give himself a reason to stay. He may have reached back out to you because that was a time that he remembers being happy. And so he tried to reconnect with you because he remembered that you made him happy. Or maybe he connected with you, Tristan, because maybe you were like his best friend that he knew he can trust. And maybe what he was trying to do was find a reason not to go.
Yeah.
That might be what was happening.
Yeah. So let me ask this, Tristan, 14 years later, how are you? And how are you coping?
Better today. Like I said, the first years were rough, and like I said, it goes even deeper, and this is crazy because this is like a therapy session for me, and I'm terrified of therapy because of what happened after.
You go, Ebony. Woo! Check you out.
You are very much helping me today. Like,
and she's in Memphis too, so if you listen, you might have a new client.
And honestly, like I said, you would be surprised how many people have begged me to, like, you need therapy. Because my therapist, and this is something that not many people know, the therapist that I had after he passed committed suicide.
Wait a minute.
So,
girl, stop.
That's intense.
Therapy scares me. Like it's like, oh my God, I'm going through it.
Well, and I'm sure church also must scare you because now you see somebody that was in your eyes representing a very godly kind of
I met the
good life, and then now a therapist that was supposed to like have your answers, so you're probably kind of messed up, right?
So I want to say also,
yes,
try to disconnect that, because therapists, like if you think of what we're discussing, one of the heaviest topics, one of the most taboo topics that people don't like to touch upon.
Yeah.
It frustrates me, but it's like I understand the discomfort on the side of it, and so that therapist had probably taken in so much.
Yes, I was just going to say
that's something that I kind of realized. I'm like, they're human.
Yeah.
Like, just like I have problems, they're dealing with a lot of people's problems. They're a healer, and that's what like.
Yes.
The crazy thing about Chaz, and it's the crazy thing about me, we were both like the people everybody came to. So we take on a lot of energy. And I'm like, I had to think about it from the therapist standpoint. I was like, he does this every day, all day. So he's taking on a lot of people's energy and dealing with his own problems. He's human too.
Yeah.
It probably got too much for him. It's like, me knowing that is one thing, but then, like I said, like jumping off that porch and, all right, I'm going to try it again. It's like.
Can I just jump in? I'm sorry, again.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So I'm a Christian. So like looking at this spiritually, I would say that the enemy's desire is to keep people away from healing and to keep people away from Christ. And the beautiful thing is that God created us to heal ourselves. Like he created us with everything that we need, right? So what we have to do is push the boundaries just a little bit so we can start feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and then we can pull back and come back to our comfort. But just a little bit at a time, kind of feel your way. Maybe like get back in the Word of God, kind of like, you know, like maybe this.
I never really, like I said, it actually made me, it kind of, like I said, what he talked about, it worked. It kind of pulled me closer to God, because it was like,
you needed him.
On God for understanding. I'm kind of, it's like I said, kind of seeing that, is like, okay, this is like, I can see what's going to happen beforehand. Let me go to the Bible and figure, like, okay, let me figure out why this happened. It's like, it kind of, like I said, it worked in a weird way, but like I said, it never shook my faith. It was confusing, but it never shook my faith. Like,
that's probably one of the biggest things. It leaves you with confusion because you're trying to understand what happened. And like, it's like those stages of grief. Like you back and forth, like going through those states, because it's like that depressive state, that angry state, that bargaining. Like, and it's like, it's so crazy to me that bargaining is part of the stages of grief, because it's like the person is dead, right? But then in your mind, it's like, oh my God, no. If this could just happen, it wouldn't be true, or it wouldn't be finalized. You keep going, back. And I tell clients all the time, with stages of grief, it's not, you ain't finna go in order with this. Like, and you might come back to some of the stages more than once. So it's rough. Like, it's rough, but confusion is one of the biggest things you left with. You feel
absolutely.
It's like, what could I have done different? And the fact of the matter is,
that's my issue.
Nothing. There's nothing. If like, just like, Chaz is from what I could observe, I didn't know him like y'all did, but he was very intelligent. If I can tell you nothing, he was very strategic in the way that he went about doing this. And so a lot of times when people are going to commit suicide, they not going to throw a banner out like, hey, y'all, I'm finna go. Like, they're not going to do that. Like, you're going to make a plan and then follow through with it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you got people that still need to be here, and it changes. So like Marlene is our example.
Absolutely.
I'm sure she thought it was a wrap. I thought she thinks she was gone. And
yeah, like, I intentionally used the sawed-off shotgun because I thought that would be it. But God had another idea I came to immediately, and I had no face, and yeah, the Lord didn't allow me to die, and my prayer to Him was that if it was His will to allow me into heaven, if not, let me stay here and I'll do His work. And I didn't know what that was, but it's what He put on my heart. And now, like I tell my daughter, like every breath that I take is for me to live for Him, to save somebody else, to reach somebody else, to help a kid that doesn't have a voice, to be what I needed when I was in their shoes. And that's
Marlene,
my entire life.
how long has it been?
So 17, I believe it's 17 years, just past the 17-year mark. Yeah. So
Wow.
17 years. And what I always say is like, I wish that I would have had somebody back then tell me like, hey, like, you're not alone. Like, I can help you. Let me help you
Yeah.
get out of this. And y'all, before I went to the army, Jonathan, I was like an executive assistant at an Alzheimer's facility. Like, I had a good job. I came out from the army and I became a secretary for an attorney. Like, I was successful. I went to the army because I wanted my kids back. I literally left everything in the world to try to get my kids back, and it threw my life into chaos. And the life that I have now with this trach in my neck, and I've had half of my half of my wrist taken to make a palate for my mouth, and half of my hip taken to make a eye socket in the cheekbone. I live every day with disabilities. I have one tooth that's hanging on top where I can chew normal food. Um, my life is so much more difficult now. But like, girl, Johnson, you knew me. I was like crazy, right? God needed somebody with all this craziness and all this angst and all this strong will and like desire to fight in order to stay here and fight for others. And my life is so much more harder now than what it would have ever been, but it has meaning and it has purpose. And every word that we have, the ability to give people life, people that feel like there's no life in them, people that don't feel like there's a life beyond their four walls or beyond their city borders or beyond their abuse or their trauma or their thoughts. There is life, and we have that gift to be able to listen to others who just need to be heard, or to love on and to accept and to encourage, like you both did with Chaz. You all are amazing, and Ebony, the amazing gift that you have of this ministry is amazing, and I applaud all of you for this topic, this discussion. All of you lending your voices, I applaud you and I thank you. This is a difficult topic, and I feel like there's not many of us out here giving voice to those without. So I thank you so very much for doing this.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So I have a question here that somebody asked, Carlene, and this is a very good one. What do you do? What do you do and say when a family or a friend experiences this type of loss? What can you do?
Be present. It's not a lot you can say, because when you have a loss like that, you already confused, you're already angry, you already lost, like you don't understand like what's going on. So just be present, be what they need in that moment, because I know I'm the person when somebody going through something, I want to talk, I want to be near you, I want to see what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and like I had to take a step back. And literally, like I remember one of my professors saying, like, because we had a class literally on suffering in the loss, like dealing like in the human condition. And one of the things he told us was like, think about who Jesus was, be what that person needed in the moment. If it was encouragement, he was there. If like somebody was crying, cry with them. Like be with them, present in the moment. Just be what they need right then. Don't try to figure stuff out, because sometimes it makes things worse. So that would be my little tidbit.
But can I say what I tell people? I'm sorry, I'm a mess up. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So what I do is, because again, you'll understand because you guys have lived it. The questions sometimes are so loud that you can't grieve. You can't cry because now you're busy looking back on the signs that you missed and what you could have and should have. Deuteronomy 29:29 is my go-to. The hidden things belong to the Lord, the revealed things belong to us. But also, it's appointed for man to die once. It's an appointment. It's not like, oh, it just happened. Like the days of our lives have been numbered before we were even born. God knew our days and the length of it and the breath therein before the foundations of the earth were created. The time that we have with our loved ones are a blessing.
Yeah.
And in order to help loved ones move past, Charlene, I would encourage to help them understand you don't need the answers. The answers don't matter. What matters is who they were and what you were blessed with. And to be able to really pass through the different stages of grief would allow yourself to celebrate them and the time that you have and allow yourself to miss them. I would encourage that. I don't know.
I want to throw something in there.
Yeah. I don't know. If that don't make sense, just tell me, girl. Just tell me.
What? No, like because we didn't touch this yet. And I thought we would a long time ago, but I know it's just been kind of flowing the way it's flowed.
We over the hour mark, so we just gonna flow. So it's okay.
So I was like looking at the time too. I'm like, oops. Okay.
I wanted to throw in like those warning signs though. So
yes,
if you sense that a person is making end of life preparations, talking about like maybe a will and things like that. Now, if it's like a person maybe got a lot of businesses, a lot of money that they're gonna have to disperse of, like if they're really sick, that's common sense to get that in order. But like if this is young person, normal, everything seems fine, and all of a sudden is, you know, they giving away stuff or they having like kind of eerie type conversations, pay attention to that. If a person is withdrawn and isolating out of nowhere and it doesn't make sense, pay attention to that. Changes in personality, because I know we talked about Chaz's personality changing towards the end. Mood swings, extreme anxiety, extreme agitation about things, feelings of hopelessness, feelings of helplessness, feeling like they have this pain that they can't get rid of. Because that's a lot of times like a pain, like, I don't know how to explain. It's almost like it's internal, not really like a physical thing, but
kind of almost called like an albatross.
It's literally like every single muscle in your body is aching. Yes.
And you can't stop it.
You cannot. No, exactly.
So feeling like you're a burden on people. That's one of the number one reasons that people say that they're gonna go. Versus let me run this back. This is why it's so important to have a circle that you truly can depend on no matter what state you're in. Because if you have a safe space to go to, you can voice these things to talk about them and not feel like you're a burden.
Right.
So I would also say feelings of excessive guilt or shame. Pay attention to that, because where is it coming from? Why did you start formulating that thought that you should feel guilty? And a lot of these things are tied to dealing with depression.
Yes.
So if you have a friend, like if something has shifted, do not be afraid to address this. Sometimes, I will say, you should never feel guilt or anything like that when you have a loved one that's committed suicide. However, don't be afraid to address when something is off. Question and have those conversations. Like I love it, Tristan, that you did when Chaz came to see you, that you kept asking, are you okay? Like, I think that mattered. I know he still had his plan, but like that mattered that you took the time to ask, to see that something seemed different. Because like the bald head, like he cut his hair off. That was kind of drastic.
Yeah.
And not to say like men don't go bald, like men go bald, but like Chance had a perfectly good fade. Like I was looking through pictures yesterday. Like
I was like, the man
he was starting to bald though. He was starting to bald. That's why he shaved the whole. Well, at least that's what he said. I saw he was starting to just a little bit. It was thinning a little bit. But then when he decided to shave it all up, I'm like, oh. Okay.
I said it caught me. I was like, what? Like what?
Yeah.
What's this? Like.
Okay, last 3 things. Changes in sleeping patterns. Not sleeping enough or sleeping too little. Also losing interest in things that normally used to excite you, be a passion for you. And then feeling trapped. If they start to say like, oh God, it just feel like I have no way out, things like that, pay attention to that. Because like
this is good for those who are to look out for, and for those who may be thinking about it themselves, because you may just, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that people have a way of, of seeing, outwardly, because some things that you're just not going to see. And that's one thing that I wanted to make sure we mention. We're not going to always notice. Sometimes people intentionally decide to keep certain things, like they're one way in front of people, and then they're completely different behind closed doors.
Like me, I didn't have a plan. We lived the drug lifestyle, so we had weapons in the house. Like I modified my shotgun on my own. Like from the outside, everybody would think we had a perfect life. We had a beautiful home, beautiful, like all the toys, everything. But on the inside, like it was a mess. So I didn't have a plan. Like sometimes you're not going to see like signs.
But remember we talked about the having access to the lethal means?
Well, yeah.
Like I know it's here. Oh, I could go and get this real quick.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So Ebony, one other question that I wanted to ask you was, it's a kind of like a 2-part. Because me, I'm gonna just be 100.
Yeah.
It took, I'm gonna say it like this. I'm still not what you would call over it. And I've come to terms with the fact that I will never, and I shouldn't be expected to be over it.
Yeah.
However, and I'm going to say this, there were times when I was going through healing process. I actually decided to, I did do some therapy for it. The therapist sucked, but, so I stopped, but I'm still looking to do it again. I was able to let it out, to talk about it at one point, and that helped a lot. Good. But sometimes healing can feel guilty. You can feel guilty for moving, for your healing, because for a while it made me feel like, man, me not being sad about it all the time feels like dishonoring him, or I'm gonna put it like this. And yes, like I'm gonna forget, like I'll forget him, and I don't want to do that. Honestly, I toss back and forth with the like, should I forget, or especially since I'm all right. So this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm trying to not to bring go all over everywhere because I have so much in my head. So for those of you who may not have seen, when I came to Memphis last month, I did an episode with my boys, with the executive presidential. Shout out to Roche Ragland and JB.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about Chaz, and we talked about my divorce. So part of that was one, I didn't realize that I hadn't completely finished grieving, that I hadn't gone through the grieving process, enough. I'll put it like that. I thought I was better. I thought it was good. I'll put it like that. So in a nutshell, without getting into too much, and on top of this, my now ex-husband, he knew what happened before. He knew what happened beforehand. And we got married. One night I was going through the process, like I was crying. And this is something else that Tristan, I know that you can attest to. Over the years, my physical body knew what time it was. Always. Every year in June, I would start to get anxious. I would start to get angry. I would just start to, get super emotional. Yes. I was super moody.
Like everybody, I think like my close friends would know, because I would start getting snappy about everything. Like throw stuff. Like I was like, and I'm not even.
I wasn't that.
But I'm not that much of a hothead where I'm like, but they were like, bro, we know. Just And I think I kind of need, like, my brothers would even do it. They're just like, and I think he said it to me like a year ago. He was like, we know. We'll just be like, all right, it's that time for Tris. We're just going to give him a couple days.
Yeah.
And that's needed. That's so good.
Yeah.
And I was
That's
like, I
necessary.
never kind of realized they picked up on it. It's like, yeah, we know. We like, it's like this, like it happens like every year at the same time. We're just like, all right, it's that time.
I love that they are aware. That's so good that your circle is aware. They just give you your space. Like, that's special.
And they don't make you talk about it. And I love that too, because not everybody needs to talk about it. I love it.
Right. And that's the thing, because I it took me a few years to actually notice. But then because I have all I knew is I would just get extra moody and snappy, and then next thing even just start crying a lot.
Yeah,
and
Roberta, how soon did you get married? After
2 years, 3 years.
3 years.
2008. I got married in 2011, so 3 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, no. All right. Moving forward to new love. Yes.
Right? Okay. Oh wait, huh? What do you mean? You mean like that?
How funny. She's like, okay, we're moving on to topic. She's such a therapist. Stop.
But then we went into the story of like what was going on. So you were crying one night, going through the process.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So I was right, and we were already married. And we were already married during this time. We were actually like a year and some change in.
Yeah.
So I'm crying. Carlene, I'm crying silently because it was at night and I was laying in my bed with my husband, and I was crying silently because I realized what time it was, and I didn't want him to, I really didn't want him to hear me cry, because I'm like, I feel bad that I have, my husband is here and I'm still upset and I'm crying over Chaz. So I felt that was kind of disrespectful to him. So I'm like, let me keep this and deal with it in my own, in my own self. Yeah. But he heard me. And so he asked me, he was like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing, I'm good. I'll be all right. And he was like, no, what's wrong? And then I said, I'll be okay. Like, he kept asking me. And then he said to me, you can tell me anything. So I'm like, all right. So I told him, I reminded him of around what time it was. And then I spilled my guts. Yeah. I spilled my guts. And then I felt better, went to sleep. Next day, attitude. He had the biggest attitude ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. And he's like, I'm doing everything that I can for our family. And you got, he just went off. He's like, you got this nigga still in your head that didn't care enough about you to stick around. And I'm like, oh, I got you. So in other words, you lied to me when you said that I can tell you anything. Got it. You don't have my back. Cool. Now, because of that, my reason for saying that is this. It's a two-part. When understanding that was not the way to respond to that,
not the way.
How would you expect a person who is wanting to be in a relationship with someone who had lost a loved one, a significant other, and what should the two of them, in other words, I want to move forward. What should I expect, and what should he expect?
So with yourself, first of all, you need to be patient with yourself, because just because years have passed by, he passed away, he's gone now, that doesn't mean that the pain or the love that was attached to their relationship is gone. That doesn't end because you're in something new. With the other person, you gotta know that that's gonna be a process. That's like, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a child, that's a relationship that was cut off without your say so.
Mm-hmm.
And so he or she, I don't know, significant other, there has to be respect there. There also has to be boundaries, because that's a grieving process. It doesn't end just because something new begins. That's right. The thing to remember. Also, with either of you in that relationship, cut comparison out. That's the easiest thing. I think about people like friends, Brother Light. then had a bunch of people that have become widows, but have gotten remarried. And it's like, that's a process, because it's like you have this one great love, then you move on after that great love is gone, and you have this another great love. And it's like, it would, in your mind, it's easy to compare, oh, he didn't do this like this, or it wasn't like this with him. Like, don't compare. That's the easiest way to shut down anything that you're trying to allow to flourish, right?
Okay.
Be slow.
And that goes for, can I interject real quick? So for those who are listening, that doesn't just go for significant others. That goes with family members, like people who, with children, because people have lost their children. And if you have another child, you know what I mean?
You're supposed to move on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, it replaces your lost one. Yes. No.
Having a conversation about it. And because I would say what I really think, the conversation with you and your ex-husband, that was from a place of insecurity, because it's like, not you still, like, what I'm imagining, not you still pining over this dude who gone, like he left you. Like, I could hear it, like, just thinking what the thoughts might have been going through his head back then. And I'm just like, man, but do you not see the other side of this? Like, could you put yourself in your shoes? Like, if you had somebody in your life that you loved to leave, and like, you have no say, you don't know the ins and outs completely, you only got possible thought scenarios that you can go off of as to what happened. Like, that's inconsiderate. That was very insecure of him to say. Also, there should have been a conversation that y'all can have openly. You know that I lost somebody to suicide. You know this is rough. I'm still going through this. I do love you. I respect you. I value you as my husband. But this is a process. It doesn't cut off because we in something new.
Can I jump in also and add to that? There was some part of you, Johnson, Roberta.
It's right. Because
I'm sorry. I don't know how to talk to you. I still call Kinlaw. Okay, Johnson. There was part of you that didn't that already knew that you couldn't trust your husband with that part of you, because for you to keep it in and to grieve alone meant that you already didn't feel comfortable allowing him in that space.
Yes.
There was a breakdown of communication in your relationship early on, because what I believe, and again, Ebony, correct me if I'm wrong, solid relationships, whether it be between parents and children or brother and sister or significant others, every life experience has the opportunity to pull you closer together or to pull you apart. Yes. There's no in between. There's no like you're just walking side by side. Like, no, either you're coming together or you're pulling apart.
Yeah.
When you have something that you're working through, you should be able to go to your significant other, friend, brother, child.
If nobody else.
100% open up and say, look, this is what I'm struggling with today. Like, and if it was your husband versus child, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be emotional today. I'm just really struggling with these emotions. They pop up, and had that safety net been developed within your relationship at the beginning, that would have been a gradual, continual conversation that he would have been able to pick up on the cues to be there to support you and couch you without you having to verbalize anything. Because just like Tristan's friends recognized and didn't have to say anything, but gave him what he needed, your husband should have also been able to recognize and give you what you needed, because the two flesh are supposed to become one. You're supposed to move as one and think as one and act as one. And if you're not moving as one, that means you're not walking in the spirit, and you guys are pulling and vying for what you guys need as opposed to being what one another needs. I'm sorry. I just had to say
don't apologize, because you're spot on. But I will say I have a difference of opinion about one thing.
Okay.
She shouldn't have had to apologize for being emotional for the loss that she suffered.
No, 100%. I agree. There should have never had to be, because like I said, from the beginning, there should have been a safety, a connection made at the very beginning that this relationship, this loss is significant. It's a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm at, and we can both move forward in this. And
Yeah,
you
and
would have
Roberta,
been
also you stated that you felt like you weren't being respectful of your
yes.
husband. When you met him, you was in the middle of a grieving process.
Come on.
That you
No, well, we met like when we started talking because we've known each other since we were younger.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, we had known each other in teenage, but we never really kept in contact like that.
Stop. He's laughing. Stop.
Hold on.
There's more.
Why you
There's more.
giggling?
Okay,
I
I'm not gonna go
laughed
there.
at
There's more. I can
Ebony.
see him laughing. Stop.
I laughed at Ebony. I was like,
Yeah, we knew each other. Like, we met when we were teenagers, but we never, I never looked at him like that or anything like that. He reached out to
But when y'all got into your relationship leading towards marriage, though, you still were in the middle of a grieving process.
Right.
Exactly.
That you thought, I guess, had subsided, but that was not the case. So,
how funny! Look at Carlene's all in the business. She's like, "Woo! Let me go get my drink. Hold on."
So Tristan, I'm gonna ask you a question from a man's perspective, and we gotta cut off because I gotta go in a little bit. Okay. So, knowing hearing what I just said, from a man's point of view, if your girl came to you with that same type of situation, how would you have responded?
It's funny you said that because it literally happened to me with my ex. Like, but it wasn't a person. It was a pet. But that's the pet's like your child.
Oh, okay.
And it was something that I said that I didn't get to finish what I was saying before she immediately heard it her way.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been like, for years we had that argument. And I was like, I'm trying to explain to him, like, because basically I was trying to say, I wish you would get over it, but I know you won't.
Yeah.
I never got to that, but I know you won't before she.
Oh, Tristan.
Because I understand that. Go ahead.
And I'm like, and I always like, we used to have an argument. She was like, well, I heard it my way. And I'm like, think about it. Why would I tell you that? And I'm going through it myself. I know firsthand you're never really going to get over it.
Yeah.
Like, I know firsthand. So why think about it? Why would I tell you that? Like, you didn't let me finish before I could. And like I said, I know it sounded like, to cut it off at that part, it sounded horrible.
Yeah.
I've apologized beyond belief, and I'm like, I know what I was trying to say, but okay, I can't say how you hurt.
Yeah,
I understand it. But yeah,
well, that's a big man of you to apologize when you literally had no ill intent. Man, I love you. I don't know you, but I love you. Good job. Man, Ebony,
the reason why
I
asked him that is because from a man, I understood from a man's perspective. I understood because I had a lot of guy friends, and I all the time I would hear their heart on certain things. So I got it, which was the reason why. That was more of the reason why I didn't want to say anything, and I didn't want to deal with. I didn't want him to have to deal with it because I felt like he shouldn't have had to. I shouldn't have had to make him deal with it.
But you got.
I understand. I get it. But here we are.
This too. If he's your significant other, your problem becomes his.
Come on, did you
wait? Say that again.
Like your problem become his. I said y'all are one. So
y'all are supposed to be a unit. Y'all are supposed to be one.
Yeah. That's why I was like, like I said, I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like this is your wife. Her problems are yours now. Like if she's dealing with it, you're gonna have to deal with it in some form of So
you needed more from him.
Did I not have to? Like I said, y'all supposed to be best friends.
And I think, but I think it goes back to the communication. If she's not expressing what she needs, then how is he able to give her what she needs? Like, I think again, we all tend to just. When there's something traumatic that happens, it's human nature to withdraw into yourself to kind of process and figure out what's going on. So that's normal, 100% that you're enduring the grief on your own because that's how we tend to deal with things on our own. So I think I'm just in a different place in life. I'm finding that communication is like really a good foundation for every kind of, and the fact that we tend not to trust people with our emotions. We tend to not trust people enough to communicate honestly with them and express what we need, because we know, again, in the society that we live in, people don't extend that olive branch, or they don't give you more of themselves. Yes, Ebony. I love it. Yes, go for it.
Yours is good.
To fully answer the question, right? So how do you move forward? What do you need to expect? What does the other person need to expect? Have patience with each other. Do not rush into a new relationship. Do not compare partners. Leave that at the door. Do not do it, because it's going to ruin things before it even gets started. Have realistic expectations, because remember, going through a grieving process with somebody going through a grieving process. So y'all got to move together, if nothing else, and take your time with each other. But also boundaries. You got to set boundaries for that relationship coming in the door. Otherwise, stuff will go haywire. Like if you think about how the ocean is set up, if it comes too far, that's a natural disaster for us, right?
Come on.
Boundaries. The way God created the earth. So he wants us to have those.
And I would, can I add to that? And boundaries are constantly meant to be pushed. Boundaries aren't meant to be safe. Like, oh, this is safe. We can only talk about this. Like, no, once you are able to flow within your relationship in the initial boundary set, then you slowly kind of work your way a little bit out. Yeah, y'all know, like Thanksgiving, when you go eat and when you gotta like, come on, y'all gotta go back
to expand a little bit more.
100%. And that's kind of like the way that we should kind of see a relationship, is we start in one area, but we're always growing together as one. The boundaries being pushed are to challenge one another, kind of pique the interest, spark meaningful conversations, knit our hearts together even more through the pushing of the boundaries. And then we'll sit there for a second, fill it out, enjoy this new boundaries that we have. And then again, it continues. And that's how relationships grow and develop and become meaningful. Trust develops, grows, intimacy continues to grow. I love y'all. Y'all are amazing.
With the communication with this person, that like if it's you getting in a new relationship after loss, or if it's him, y'all also need to have a conversation about the impact of death.
Oh, yes.
Because, like, obviously, like a suicide,
it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah, like you typically don't expect somebody you love, you're in a relationship with, to go and be done with life. Like, you don't expect that. So it's always going to be unexpected. So you need to be able to have a conversation about what that impact of trauma associated with an unexpected death is like. And like, how do you think you would respond to it? How do you think you would respond to it? But like, you can only give your experience, right? So
that's good.
That would be my last little tidbit. I'm done.
No, so listen, we are at an hour and a half in. So I'm gonna have to break this up because this has to go on Instagram. But I want to thank y'all. I want to thank y'all so y'all don't understand. I really hope and I pray that this was healing for somebody. I know it did me very well. This helped me so much. So much.
Feel the weight off.
You made it with no tears.
And I made it with no tears.
I cried for you. So
I made it with no tears. And what I want to do is I want to have each of you give your I'm going to start first, actually. I want each of you to give your final thoughts and encouragement to everybody. What I'm going to start off with is I'm going to say is give yourself some time. Give yourself some time. Understand that there is no set time frame for grief. And that's for everything, whether the person that passed was, was sick or whether they left unexpectedly. That's for that. As far as that goes, give yourself some time to get through. And everybody's time is not the same. Give yourself grace. That's for those who are still left. For those who are contemplating, Please, and I want you to hear me, and I'm going to look straight at this camera. You don't have to do it. You're loved. Somebody is going to absolutely miss you years. We're here talking about somebody who decided to leave 14 years later, and the impact is still there.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do it for anybody else, for yourself, do it for somebody who cares about you. If you feel like nobody cares about you, you don't know who it is that is looking up to you. You don't know who it is that needs you. So in the event, and I forgot to do this, but I need to do this now. In the event that there is anybody who is, experiencing thoughts of suicide, listen, understand, help is available. Help is available. If you don't want to reach out to one of us, if you don't want to reach out to a friend, if you don't want to reach out to anybody, I want you to get this number. This is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And I want you to call that number and talk to somebody. Yeah, I understand that you may not feel like talking is enough. That's where it starts. And that can be the answer to, the further answers down the future. You're here for something. You're in this world for a reason. And I want you to know that not only are you loved, but God loves you. God loves you so much, so much, so much. And even though you may be going through whatever it is that you're going through that makes you feel like you can't anymore, understand that he wants to be there for you. Understand that he wants to be the strength that you don't have. Yeah. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that he wants us to cast our cares on him because he cares for us. So the way to do that is so simple. Just talk to him. God, I need you. I need you right now. Like, I need you to show up in my life. Like, you can even just say that. Say that. Help me. That's all that's needed. That's all he ever wants from us, is to have a relationship with us. He doesn't want to set you, bog you down with a bunch of rules, regulations. He doesn't want to start there. He wants to start by loving you. Yeah. And not just loving you, because he already showed and proved that he loves you. How did he show that? Because he allowed his son, his only son, who is Jesus Christ, to come down in this earth, show us how to live in a way that that we're supposed to, in a way. I'll put it like that, so that we know that it can be done. And then he also made the decision to take on the sin that we have, because we all have it. He decided to knowingly, he knew he was going to have to go through this process, knowingly go on the cross to take on everything that we would not be able to make it to heaven with. He did that because he loves us. Because without doing that, nobody would be able to see God. Nobody would be able to leave this world, because we were going to leave this world. We're going to, one way or another. But they would not have the opportunity. Nobody would have the opportunity to make it to heaven. So he decided, you know what? I'm going to do something for the entire world. I know that they're not going to all agree with me. I know they're not all going to love me. They're not all going to love me, but I'm going to do it anyway for those who will. Yeah. So I'm asking that you be one of those that will. Be one of those that will, and allow him to be there with you and for you through everything. Through everything. Again, if you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. I'm here. One of us are here. And if you don't want to do any of that, there's this number here. So I love you. I don't know you, but I love you because I love people. I hate people. I can't stand people, but I love people, if that makes any sense. So that's my
Hashtag,
you go next, Ebony, then.
Hashtag Jesus and therapy.
Yes. Hashtag Jesus and therapy. Ebony, I'm gonna have you next to do your final. And if, by the way, guys, if I'm putting everybody's Cash Apps and social media handles on here so that you can follow and send a little something if you want to. Take it away, Ed.
Okay, so I'm so happy for all of you that joined us today. I hope that if you are considering, or if you have attempted suicide, I hope that there will never be another attempt. That's first. Second, if you're considering, I hope that you do realize that you are loved. You are loved. You are needed. Somebody here needs you. You were put here for a purpose. Every person drawing breath on this earth is here for a reason. So I want you to keep that in mind, but I also want you to use resources that are available if you're struggling. Like she said, I am available. Reach out to me. I will get you connected to somebody immediately. You're needed here. You're loved. And that's all I got.
All right. Thank you,
For for people who are thinking about suicide or had them thoughts, understand that your purpose is bigger than your vision. Like, it'll be beyond your understanding, really. Like I said, you may feel like, and I've experienced it with people, like you don't understand who you inspire. You have no idea the people who look up to you. You don't know how many people are pulling like from you. Like you're their strength.
Wow.
Keep fighting. And I had to kind of learn that earlier this year, dealing with another situation. Your purpose is here for a reason. If you were meant to go, you were meant to go. You're here for a reason.
Yeah.
What that reason is, we don't know. But you're here for a reason, so keep going. You might as well. At the same time, like I said, rely on your village. Like I said, if you have a village, rely on it. Because that's honestly the only way I could have got through what I got through.
Yeah.
Like my brothers, my friends, they all picked me up. And that's the only way I could have made it. So rely on your village. If your village is there, rely on them.
Yes.
They're there for a reason. Everything has a reason. So that's all I like.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. That's good. That was real good. Marlene, we're gonna close it out with you, honey.
Yeah, so I would say this is a moment in time. This isn't your life. This is a moment in time in your life. God has so much in store for you. You know, we tend to look at God as this supernatural, spiritual kind of being in the sky that's looking down at us and waiting to judge us and condemn us to hell. But the reality is that not only do we have an amazing, real, powerful, living God, but we have a high priest who is Jesus, who is able to stand in the gap between man and us, who is able to relate to every pain and shame and fear and infirmity, every single failure that we may feel. He's able to understand. That's why God himself wrapped himself in human flesh, so that way he can relate to us. That's how much he loves us. He wanted to know why we think what we think and why we do what we do and how he can reach us. We do not have a great high priest who is not able to relate to our infirmities, but on all accounts he was tempted as we are, yet without sin. So therefore we can come boldly to the throne of grace and obtain help in time of need. Like Jesus loves us. He understands you. You're not alone. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Like his thoughts towards you are good and not evil. His desire is to give you a future and a hope. That's the first promise that I ever held on to after I shot myself, because I never thought that I had a future. I never even bought a cap and gown when I graduated high school, because I never planned for my future. I always felt like I would die before I hit 20. And I love you too. Wait. Okay, how to do it? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean? Okay, like that. Oh, okay. Anyways, stop it. I know I'm a jerk. Okay, I'm a joke, nerd, all of it. Okay, so Jesus loves you. His desire for you is good and not evil. His desire is a glorious future. The moment that you're living in now is but a second. Then there's another second and another, all accumulating to give you another chance to make a different change, a different decision, to make plans, to live. Yeah. And that's what I would encourage, is to live. Get out of the house, put the phone down, look around. I tell my kids, I parked all the way down the end of the parking lot so I could walk all the way to the store. And my kids are like, why would you do that? Because I want to enjoy the walk. That's why. Leave me alone. Like, live.
Keep swimming.
Exactly. Keep swimming. That's right. He's a plan and purpose for your life. And yes, that's it.
Amen.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank everyone for watching. This has been another episode of Speaking Plain English, and I really hope it touched somebody. Stay tuned for the ending because I love it. My daughter does my intro and my outro, and I just think she is so dope. We have a little something that she added at the end, so stay tuned and watch. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.